All right, let's just dive right in. We all do it, right? We look to the past to try and figure out the future. It feels like the smart thing to do. But what if, when it comes to your money, that's one of the biggest mistakes you could possibly make? Today, we're going to break down why our whole relationship with financial history is, well, it's kind of backwards, and how a totally new way of thinking can change everything for you. This quote from Stanford professor Scott Sagan, it just perfectly sets the stage. I mean, think about it. It's such a simple idea, but it's also incredibly profound. History is literally a record of things that caught everyone completely by surprise. So why do we keep treating it like some kind of predictable blueprint? And that really gets to the core paradox we're digging into today. History is the study of shocking, surprising events, and yet we insist on using it as this flawless guide to the future. It's kind of like trying to navigate a brand new city with a map that's 100 years old. Yeah, sure, a few of the old landmarks might still be there, but all the most important stuff, the highways, the one-way streets, the new neighborhoods, they've completely changed. You know, this little mental trap we fall into, it actually has a name, the historians as prophets fallacy. And we fall for it because, let's be honest, we all crave certainty. We want investing to be a hard science, like geology or medicine, where the past is a perfect, reliable guide. But it's just not. It's driven by people, by our psychology, our greed, our fear, and those forces are anything but static. So if history isn't this perfect map, then why not? Well, the first huge reason is the massive, world-altering power of outliers. We're talking about those incredibly rare, totally unpredictable events that just come out of nowhere and change the entire game. I mean, just look at this number. It's so small, it almost looks like a typo. This represents the percentage of people born in the last couple of centuries who were responsible for the vast majority of the world's direction. Let that sink in for a second. The fate of billions of people was decided by a group so small you could fit them in a high school auditorium. And just think about some of the names that fall into that tiny, tiny percentage. The world we're all living in right now, our borders, our technology, our societies, was fundamentally sculpted by a handful of individuals whose existence and whose impact were completely and totally unpredictable beforehand. And it isn't just about people, right? The same exact thing is true for big projects and major events. These moments had an impact that was just orders of magnitude greater than trillions of other things that happened. They were what we call tail events, just wild, unforeseeable surprises that completely bent the arc of history. And here it is, the crucial point of this whole section. History is not a story of averages, it is a story of surprises. The biggest economic shifts we've ever seen can be traced back to a handful of events that absolutely nobody saw coming. And that makes trying to forecast the future based on the average day in history a complete losing game. But it's not just about these rare, unpredictable lightning strikes. The problem actually goes even deeper, which brings us to our second big argument. The entire game itself is constantly changing. The underlying structure of the economy is always evolving, making those old maps totally, utterly obsolete. Hey, take a look at the frequency of US recessions, for example. Back in the 19th century, they were super common, happening every couple of years. But in the last 50 years, the average gap is about 8 years, and the longest stretch without one in modern history was the one that led right up to 2020. The rules have clearly changed, as our economy has shifted away from manufacturing and towards services and information. And this isn't just about these huge economic cycles. Even the most famous, most celebrated investing strategies become outdated. Benjamin Graham, he's like the godfather of value investing. He had these really specific formulas that worked like magic back in his day. But if you try to apply his rules from 1949 to the market today, you'd be stuck buying just a tiny handful of companies, and you'd miss out on almost the entire modern economy. The game literally evolved right out from under him. And you know what's so amazing? Graham himself knew it. Just before he passed away, he actually admitted that his own famous techniques weren't really that effective anymore, simply because the world had changed. So you see, even the masters, the absolute legends, understood that the past is not a perfect guide. Okay, so if history is a flawed map, what are we supposed to do? We have to stop trying to predict the future with pinpoint accuracy and instead start embracing uncertainty. This is a much, much more powerful way to think about your money and about risk. This quote from the Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman, it's just the ultimate lesson here. We shouldn't use past surprises to try and define the boundaries of what could happen next. We should use them as an admission that we have absolutely no idea what might happen next. The world is, and it always will be, surprising. So how do we actually use history the right way? Because it's not useless.
You use it to understand the broad strokes, human behavior, how greed and fear play out when people are under pressure. Use it to get a rough guide of what generally works over long periods of time. But you should never, ever use it as a precise map for the future. And please, do not assume that the worst thing that's happened in the past is the worst thing that can happen.
Okay, now for the fun part. Let's turn all of these ideas inward. Instead of just thinking about abstract markets and history, let's think about our own financial lives and how these concepts apply directly to you. No, seriously, take a second and really think about this. Are your retirement projections, your savings goals, your entire investment strategy, is it all built on the assumption that the next 30 years are just going to be a carbon copy of the last 30? Because if we've learned anything today, that is a really dangerous assumption to make. So if we know the past isn't a perfect guide, then we desperately need a buffer, a margin of safety. This isn't just about being conservative. It's about deliberately building room for error into your plan. It's that extra cash in your savings, that extra cushion in your timeline, that little bit of humility in your expectations. It's the stuff that allows your plan to survive when the inevitable, unpredictable surprises finally hit. And that really is the final thought, isn't it? True financial preparedness. It has nothing to do with having a perfect forecast. It's about having a plan that is flexible and robust enough to succeed, not because you can predict the future, but precisely because you accept that you can't. It's about being prepared for that one simple, powerful, and liberating fact. The world is surprising.